Welcome back to The Explainer, everyone. Today we're unpacking something incredibly profound and, honestly, deeply human. We're looking at the biological architecture of trauma and recovery. You know, we toss the word trauma around a lot, right? But how often do we actually stop and look at the physical mechanics? What is it literally doing inside our bodies? So today we're going to take a highly structured look at exactly how extreme stress physically changes the human brain. And, well, more importantly, we'll look at the proven biological pathways we can use to actually heal. If you've ever found yourself wondering about the real science behind resilience, you are absolutely in the right place.
Okay, let's dive into this. 3 million. The human brain has this staggering, phenomenal capacity to store roughly 3 million hours of life experiences over the course of a lifetime. Just think about that for a second. That is enough time to fill a massive, vast library of memories, sights, sounds, emotions, all neatly filed away right there in your neural pathways.
But this brings us to a pivotal question. It's really the heart of today's explainer. What happens when just one of those hours out of 3 million is so completely overwhelming that it permanently changes how you see the rest? I mean, how does the brain process an experience that completely shatters its sense of safety? In essence, this is what PTSD really is. It's like the brain receives this terrifying postcard from a super dangerous world, and it just decides that this postcard is way too important to ever stop reading. It keeps obsessively looking at it over and over, trying to keep you safe.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is how it forces us to completely rethink what trauma actually means. In modern psychology, we're finally learning that trauma isn't just a bad event, and it's definitely absolutely not a personal failing. It is a biological adaptation. When someone finds themselves in a landscape of danger, the body produces this intense surge of stress hormones. It's doing this to ensure your survival. The body is literally adapting to a hostile environment just to keep you breathing.
Which brings us to part 1, the human reality. Meet Alex.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happens next. Let's look at our avatar for today, Alex. Alex grew up in an environment where his basic childhood needs for comfort and safety were, well, frequently ignored. He experienced what we call chronic stress during his most critical developmental years. And look at the lingering reality of that childhood experience. Today, he might be sitting in a perfectly safe, quiet office building, but internally, his brain is totally hyper-alert. His self-image leans negative. And when everyday stress hits, his mind might use something called dissociation. Basically, a feeling of being completely detached from his own physical body. His mind is literally trying to shield him from a reality that his biology still firmly believes is an active, life-or-death threat.
Let's transition to part 2, the biological deep dive. Inside the architecture of trauma. Let's look at exactly what creates this massive disconnect in Alex's body. So, the whole process kicks off right on top of your kidneys at the adrenal glands. Whenever the brain perceives a threat, these glands sound the alarm. They just flood your entire bodily system with adrenaline and a fluid called cortisol. Now, don't get me wrong. In an isolated emergency, these chemicals are amazing. They are absolutely essential to help us fight or flee. But when these internal alarms just never stop ringing, like when a child is stuck in an ongoing landscape of danger, those exact same chemicals become toxic. In chronic doses, they act like a slow-acting poison for the developing human brain over time.
So the crucial point is this. Toxic stress literally rebuilds the brain's architecture. We've actually seen this in MRI scans. Victims of extreme, chronic trauma often present with smaller volumes of actual brain mass. They have weakened immune systems. The stress is so profound, so intense that it can literally switch the expression of your genes. The physical health impacts of an overloaded nervous system can just sit there, repressed in your biology, and manifest as physical illnesses a full 40 years later. It's a lifelong physical footprint.
But that leads us to part 3, the neuroplasticity rebound, rewiring the brain.
Here is the incredible, empowering news. The architecture of the brain is not set in concrete. Thanks to a really cool concept called neuroplasticity, your brain is very much like a muscle. And just like any muscle, it grows, it heals, and it can fundamentally change its physical structure with the right kind of consistent training. Let's move to Shauna and see how this builds into a practical, actionable system. To navigate this biological change, clinical experts use what's called the grounding workflow. It's basically a simple 3-step checklist designed to help you start rewiring those faulty alarm systems. Let's break them down.
All right, step 1 is spaced reflection. This just requires a commitment to 15 minutes of daily grounding activity. This could be a dedicated meditation practice, or even, just engaging in a really deep, meaningful conversation. The biological goal here is super simple. By forcing the brain into a state of calm focus for 15 minutes a day, you are literally giving it the exact environment it needs to grow new, healthy synapses. You're out there paving new roads in the brain.
Then we have step 2, the safe base. This is all about identifying just one person who offers you a complete, unquestionable safe haven. This might be a trusted friend, or, highly effectively, a professional trained in cognitive behavioral therapy or dialectical behavior therapy. The practice here is communicating small vulnerabilities to this safe base. What that does is it slowly teaches your nervous system that other humans can actually be a source of safety rather than a source of danger. It is absolutely foundational for rebuilding your self-image.
And finally, step 3 is where we rewrite the postcard. Remember that terrifying postcard the brain keeps obsessively reading? Yeah. We need to conduct what psychologists call a gene switch audit. Using techniques from cognitive behavioral therapy, this step involves writing down one positive, growth mindset truth every single morning. What you're doing is consciously countering those old biological messages of danger with brand new, documented messages of safety and capability.
Let's consolidate all of this into a clear, actionable trauma recovery checklist that you can take away with you today. First, identify the alarm. Keep a daily log of what specifically triggers your stress response. Is it like a certain loud noise, a specific smell, or maybe particular words? Second, commit to the 15-minute synapse through daily grounding. Third, do your gene switch audit every single morning. And finally, seek out that professional connection to establish your safe base.
Part 4, Rewriting Your Story. The empathetic close.
As we wrap up the science today, I want to take a quick second to look at the human element behind all this data. Look, navigating this biological terrain is exhausting. It takes immense personal resilience, and the path to rewiring your brain is rarely a straight line. As the poet Samuel Beckett once wrote, try again, fail better. Healing takes real time. You're going to have days where the alarm system rings loudly, and honestly, that is completely okay. The goal isn't immediate perfection. It's just continuous, gentle persistence. It's about training that mental muscle day by day and failing better each time.
Finally, if you take absolutely nothing else away from this explainer today, please remember this. If your biology adapted to a landscape of danger a long time ago, it was never your fault. Your body just did what it had to do to survive. And now you have the neuroplasticity and the tools to teach it how to thrive. I would absolutely love for you to share your own stories of resilience down in the comments below. Let's build a community of safe bases right here. If you want to support our mission to bring these structured scientific lessons to everyone, please consider visiting us on Patreon. Until next time, I'll leave you with this final thought. If your brain is powerful enough to protect you by completely changing its very architecture, imagine what it can do when you finally teach it that you are safe. Think about it. Thanks so much for watching.